Good morning, everybody. We're going to be doing some English today, and we are going to be looking at keeping cohesion between our paragraphs. Now, yesterday we looked at keeping cohesion between our sentences. We're taking that a step further now, and now we're linking paragraphs. And can you remember what we use paragraphs for? Paragraphs pretty much just keep our ideas organised. We'll keep separate ideas in separate paragraphs. We know it can be a little bit more complicated than that, but just generally speaking, we're separating different ideas. Now, it's really important for us to create cohesion or a link between our paragraphs because it helps with the flow of our reading, and it just helps us to understand what is happening. So here are some adverbials you can use for cohesion. So we can use them at the front of our sentences at the beginning, or we can use them in the middle or at the end. And there's different punctuation rules for whether we use them at the end, the middle, or at the beginning. Remember, if we use them at the front, we call it a fronted adverbial, and there needs to be a comma after it. If we use it in the middle, you might call it an embedded clause, and you'd have commas either side. And if you use it at the end, generally speaking, we wouldn't be using any commas for that. Now, they're not hard and fast rules because there'll be differences in the sorts of openers that we're using or adverbials that we're using, but that was a general rule. So let's have a think back. So how do you know when to start a new paragraph? Now, we covered this acronym. My pen's not working, so sorry about that. We covered this acronym, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, maybe last week? And can you remember what it is? So our first one is topic. What else do we have? So we've got topic. Oh no, sorry. Topic is TO. That would make much more sense. What's TI? TI is time. So the time of when something happens. Can you remember what P is? Place. That's where something happens. TO is of course topic. I made that mistake. And P is person. So, going through it. So we've got our time, we've got our place, we've got our topic, and we've got our person. Now they're just different reasons for us to use a new paragraph. We've changed time, we've changed place, we've changed the topic that we're talking about, and we've changed the person that we're talking about. So here are some openers that you can use that come from a story. What do you notice about all of these? So lots of them. So we've got some that are like after, the next morning. They are to do with the time. As he slowly weighed his way into, embarrassed by about the incident. These are talking about some form of action that's happening. So a good way to start your sentence or you start a paragraph is with some action. You're in the middle of an action. It's a good way to settle the reader into your story. As of course we've said time, the next morning, after listening attentively to Cameron, and then we have Cameron the chameleon was a funny creature who. So that is going in to describe a character. So there's lots and lots of different ways. You might want to adapt some of these into your story that you eventually make. So you might want to make a note of some of these on a little Magpie book. So when you come to write yours, actually you can take some of these out. So what I want you to do, I want you just to have a look at this. And I want you to think about when could they use a new paragraph? We've got the opener in there, but when could they? So read through it and just put, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. I have to do it with my finger. Two lines like that in between the words. So for example, if you thought there was a paragraph there, you would do that. I mean, there isn't a paragraph there. Where would you put the paragraph? So remember, we're thinking about when the time changes, when the person changes, when the topic changes, and when the place changes. And you may get a clue with some of the openers. So we're looking for things like when, next, they indicate time. So let's have a look. You've had a go at that. Let's have a look at some of the answers. So here we go. This is how I would lay it out. I would have had here, I would have had a new paragraph because we're talking about when we finally arrived. We're talking about a change of place here. So we're on a coach here in this first paragraph, but now we're moving on to being at the zoo. The place has changed. We've got here, we've got next. Next would indicate some form of order. So we're talking about time here. So there's a new time. So we've done something here. After that, we've gone into this one. Finally, we've got a few hours later. Again, the time has changed. This is later on in the day. We go down here. We've got time again. We got back to school. And then here, we've got some speech here. We're starting to introduce some people. So that's how I would have structured it. Okay, we've got time. That's where we've got place. We've got time. If you wasn't sure, it might be a good idea just to pause this screen, just have a look through, see the underlined opener or adverbial opener, and then just see why I have done this. You might want to replay this a little bit back as well. So moving on to our story that we're going to be ending up writing. This is a rough structure. Now, not every story follows this structure, but because we're focusing on writing a story, I thought it'd be a good idea to give us quite a rigid structure. That means we're going to keep to this as much as possible. Although, if you're a professional writer, you could follow whatever structure you wanted. So each of these numbers is going to be a different paragraph. So we've got a setting description. Oh, pen's back. Setting description. We're going to start by setting the scene. We're not going to talk about the characters yet. We're just going to describe our setting, where it's taking place. Number 2, we've got dolphins playing with friends. So now we're starting to introduce the main character. And we'll be describing them, and then we might talk about their friends. Depending if they're an important part of the story, we might describe them a little bit, but we're not going to focus as much on them. And in here, we're going to include some direct speech. Number 3, we're going to have the dolphin coming up for air and accidentally getting caught in a fishing net. That's going to be our problem. Number 4, they're trying to swim away, but they can't. And we are sort of starting to get a solution. So some other dolphins are going to try and help. And then we're going to have the dolphin remain stuck, unable to go anywhere. Now, some of you might want to add some bits in there. I'm going to suggest that you don't. I'm going to suggest that you keep to these 5, purely because I don't want us writing 5 pages of mumbo jumbo. I would rather have 5 quality paragraphs that link together, that use your words efficiently, and you're using the best words possible, and you're using the best sentences possible. So here we go. Here's a little bit more help. And so pause this, make some notes if you want to. So our setting description, here are some examples, and you'll notice these are from the slides that we've been covering during the week. You can give you some ideas, some things you can. I'm not going to read through them. You can read through them. And just today, our activity for today. So for one chili, you are going to have a go at this. Now we have some adverbial openers. We have some openers of place, like prepositional openers. We have when, some verbs. So this is our action. We have ed. So this is our action as well. But this one is in past tense. Simile openers, connective openers, or how. So they're different types of openers. It's not an exhaustive list. You could find some online if you wanted to. You could use the blue and grey grid at the beginning of the video to help you. And for one chili, what I want you to do is just put an appropriate opener into each of these sentences. And these sentences could be used as a starter for your paragraph. So remember, each of these is a paragraph. Think about how you would link them. And this is the grid that I was talking about. So let's go back to here. We've got come up with paragraph openers based on the storylines given. Now in the One Chili, we gave some examples, but actually use this structure. These are our paragraphs. Come up with your own openers inspired by this grid here. Yeah, so use this to come up with, don't come up with the whole paragraph, just come up with the opening sentence of that paragraph. So you can have an opening sentence for this one, 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 an opening sentence for this one. Now take your time. I am noticing some people are really rushing this, and it looks like you watch the video, get really excited, have a go for 10 minutes, and then send me it. Have a think about it, because our lesson would normally be an hour. Have a play around with some of the words. Try one sentence, and actually, if you think, it's not my greatest, try another one. Don't just give me the word, write out the sentence, because it's about you practicing, not just about completing the activity. And finally, number 3, come up with paragraph openers based on the storyline you are using adjectives, adverbs, and use a thesaurus top level. So it's very simple. It's very similar to the Two Chili, but I'm looking for some in-depth quality and a really good, well thought out selection of words and vocabulary. And some of you, most of you are giving me some work that I can tell that you've really gone into, and some of your vocabulary is amazing. So well done with that. Please feel free to use some work or some of the slides from previous lessons. Use some vocabulary that you might find in reading. I was really interested. Some of you taught me some new words yesterday from your books that you've been reading. Today's reading, we're going to look at our books again. I'll look from the dictionaries, but today we're going to be looking at the books. So use some of the vocabulary used. It's a really good idea to have a Magpie book. If you've started one up, send a picture of it. I'd like to see what you've included in there. So good luck with this. Remember,